Professional wrestling is one of the most unique performance arts and forms of entertainment of all time. Having been around for decades, wrestling has evolved and changed. Wrestlers today are stronger, faster, and capable of incredible feats that wrestlers from past generations could only dream of. And yet, the art that those wrestlers of past generations created lives on. Professional wrestling is a wonderful thing because at its core, it's storytelling, and that story can be told in endless ways. Because of this evolution, we have witnessed an ever-changing conversation where fans around the world have asked the question, who is the greatest of all time? Today, I am going to be answering that question. The GOAT Argument is a series where each episode I will be looking at a certain wrestler's entire career and body of work and telling you why they are the greatest of all time. It doesn't matter whether I believe it or not. I am putting my personal opinions aside and making an indisputable case for that wrestler in question. Besides, we all know who I think the actual GOAT is. Today, we are going to make the argument why Mick Foley is the greatest professional wrestler of all time.
Oh, and by the way, Beaner Bronco Buster?
Yeah.
Where the hell did that come from?
Improv.
Oh, it's wonderful.
We are living in a professional wrestling landscape filled with former football players, track and field stars, and other college athletes. WWE's recruitment programs such as NIL and now the ID program have transformed the way we look at developing young wrestling prospects. Now, this isn't a bad thing by any means. Some of the biggest stars in the business didn't initially set out to become wrestlers. From Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker, who pursued careers in the NFL, to even Cody Rhodes, who wanted to be an actor. The truth is, for a lot of these athletes, wrestling wasn't their first option. And like I said, that's not inherently a bad thing. Not everyone needs to have grown up dreaming of a WWE ring to contribute something valuable to it. But here's the flip side. We're seeing a growing trend where people view professional wrestling as a fallback option, something to try only after other aspirations don't pan out. Oh, football didn't work out? Let's give wrestling a shot. And while some of these athletes truly embrace the wrestling world and the dedication it requires, many come in with limited passion for the art itself. But why am I even saying this? Because when wrestling is not a fallback plan, when wrestling is the only option, when it's more than just a career but a calling, you get something different. You get a person who is willing to endure anything, sacrifice everything, and push themselves to limits most people wouldn't dare. When wrestling is all you have, when you'd give anything just to be a part of it, that's when you get someone like Mick Foley. Foley's promos blurred the line between character and reality. When Foley speaks, you get a glimpse into the soul of the man behind the persona. Here, Foley isn't just cutting a promo, he's sharing his pain, his frustrations, and his sacrifices. This is a man who didn't see wrestling as just a way to pay the bills. He saw it as his life, his purpose. And because of that, he was willing to endure unimaginable pain, not for fame, not for glory, but because he loved professional wrestling in a way that few will ever truly understand. And this passion, it was more than words. It was a commitment he proved time and time again. Mick Foley's career is a testament to perseverance. He wasn't born with the natural physique or athleticism that many top stars had. But what he lacked in those areas, he made up for in passion, resilience, and heart that connected with the fans on a profound level. And that's what makes Mick Foley different. Wrestling wasn't just a job or a fallback for him, it was his passion. For Foley, every match was a chance to prove he belonged, to show the world that while he might not have the look of a traditional superstar, he had a level of dedication that few could match. Now, I'm not going to waste your time and talk about King of the Ring in 1998. You all know what happened, I'm sure you're sick of hearing it by now. But what I will say is that it wasn't just some crazy spot. It was a moment that transcended wrestling and is, I think, a perfect moment to showcase Foley's unrelenting dedication to his craft and his desire to give fans something unforgettable. And that's what it's really all about, right? The fans. What further separates Foley from other wrestlers is his ability to connect with the audience on a deeply emotional level. His characters, they weren't just gimmicks, they were extensions of who he was as a man and as a performer. Whether it was the deranged and tortured Mankind, the hardcore legend Cactus Jack, or the goofy, lovable Dude Love, Foley brought a level of depth and authenticity to each persona, all that showcased a little piece of the man behind the character. As Mankind, Foley created a character that was complex and tragic, a man who was tormented but still had a sense of humanity beneath the mask. His rivalry with The Rock, particularly their I Quit match at the 1999 Royal Rumble, showcased how Foley used violence as a storytelling device, not just to shock, but to evoke real emotion from the fans. Now, this might be a little controversial. I understand in 2024, we have become all too accustomed with death matches, barbed wire, and literal fire. I'm not here to debate whether or not it's overdone, or to use Mick Foley as a way to look down on those who do death matches today. I just want to emphasize how much he cared, what he was willing to do, and how that made us care. Fans cared about Mick Foley not just because of the stunts and all the insane things he did, but because he made them feel something, almost as if he was willing to do these things for us. Another aspect of Foley's greatness was his willingness to elevate other talent. When talking about the GOAT, it's easy to look at championship belts and long title reigns. But if that was the case, I'd have to make a video about Hulk Hogan, and you can bet your ass that's never happening. Mick Foley didn't mind taking losses or enduring brutal matches to make his opponents look good. His feuds with Triple H, The Rock, and Edge, they weren't just about his own success, they were about making sure those he worked with came out stronger, and in some cases, came out looking like future world champions. Look no further than Foley's feud with Randy Orton. Their hardcore match at Backlash cemented Orton as a legitimate star, and showed just how much Foley was willing to do to elevate the next generation. Time and time again, Foley's selfishness helped others reach new heights. Foley quite literally helped cement the next generation not once, but twice. Very few wrestlers have shown the level of resilience that Foley has. This is a man who took unthinkable risks with his body for the sake of the fans and the business. Whether it was being thrown off a cell, taking chair shots unprotected, or putting his body on the line in death matches, Foley's in-ring sacrifice earned him the respect of fans and his peers alike.
Things that he came in and did is just, I hate to keep going back to that, but it really, that's the one thing that stands out in my mind, is the trauma that he inflicts on himself for the love of this business.
I know I mentioned it briefly, but I really wanted to harp on the point again. I'm not necessarily praising all of the insane things Foley did. I would not advise anyone to endure the things he did. And I know I called the unprotected chair shots Foley using violence as a storytelling device, but if you disagreed and said they were pointless or reckless, I wouldn't really disagree with you. I just want to highlight the passion and willingness he had to take things up to the next level, even if it wasn't always worth it. But beyond being the hardcore legend, there was a side of Mick Foley that was refreshingly real. He never pretended to be something he wasn't. He was open about his imperfections, his struggles, and his humanity. And that's what made fans love him even more. Like I've said so many times in this video and in other videos, in a business filled with bodybuilders and supermodels, there is nothing more important than being relatable. And I don't know about you guys, but I look a lot more like Mick Foley than I do Roman Reigns. To bring things full circle, in today's wrestling landscape where some wrestlers may view wrestling as a stepping stone or an alternative career path, Foley's story reminds us of an era when wrestling demanded everything from you. When people lived and breathed professional wrestling, it was a lifestyle, a brutal, often thankless pursuit. And Foley lived it to the fullest. Every scar, every limp, every night spent in pain, all of it was for the love of his craft. Mick Foley is the embodiment of what happens when wrestling is your only option. When you need to wrestle like you need to breathe. when your love for your craft is worth more than any bump or bruise, and when pure passion drives you past your own limits. And that is why he is the greatest of all time. Alright guys, that's the video. I hope you all enjoyed. In my last video, someone suggested I do a GOAT argument on Kurt Angle next, so you guys can expect that sometime soon. On a personal note, I haven't talked to you guys directly in a while, but I just wanted to thank you for all the support. You know, the channel has literally doubled in subscribers over the last month, and I could just not be more thankful. You know, I love talking about wrestling, and I'm just really glad you guys enjoy hearing me talk about wrestling.
People call these things imperfections, but they're not. Oh, that's the good stuff. And then we get to choose who we let into our weird little worlds.